So good morning. Second year Bcom computer applications, second year BA computer applications, second year BSc Bzca, third sem computer applications, అలాగే సెకండ్ ఇయర్ BA కంప్యూటర్ అప్లికేషన్స్ ఇవన్నీ కూడా మనకి RDBMS DBMS థర్డ్ సెమిస్టర్ DBMS and DBMS data models. It is an essay type question, compulsory essay type question. Data models. So today we discuss about design, implementation, management of DBMS and data models, various data models, how to implement them, like that. So in this chapter you will learn about why data models are important, about the basic data modeling building blocks, what business rules are and how they affect the database design, how the major data models evolved and their advantages and disadvantages, how data models can be classified by level of abstraction. So we discuss all these things about data models. So the importance of data models, why we require data model. Means relatively simple representation, usually graphical, of complex real world data structures. Means why we are using RDBMS and data model means to convert the real world scenario or to convert the real world problems into a easily understandable manner by using some tools like graphical tools, tables and easily understandable representations using complex structures, using to convert complex structures into easy way. So communication tool to facilitate interaction among the designer, the application programmer and the end user. So it is a tools, these are the tools, graphic tools or table like graphics tools, and to it is an interface between the developer, application developer, designer and the application programmer and users and top level managers, like that. Good database design uses an appropriate data model as its foundation. So we may choose our own data model for our requirements. So importance of data models, why we require, means end users have different views and needs for data. Means end users means generally the customers or the application developers or the users, they can be accessed, they can try to access data or information. Means they can someone can view the some part of data or information, someone requires some other part, so that they have their own requirements. So for that we may require data modeling, and data model organizes data for various users. Means it is also used to organize various data for various users. Next is data model basic building blocks. So entity is anything about which data are to be collected and stored. Attribute is a character of an entity. Relationship describes an association among two or more entities. One-to-one relationship, that is 1:1 many to many, M to M, many M:(n) or M:(n) relationship, one-to-one relationship. So what is entity? Entity is anything about, we already discussed about entities and relationships. So what is entity? Entity is anything about which is taken from a real world scenarios, which is used to collect and store and maintain data. And attribute is a characteristic of entity. So generally attribute is nothing but it is a characteristic, or it is a property, or it is a some type of explanation about the characteristics of the entities. And relationships, what are relationships? Relationships are generally established or created among two or more entities. Generally relationships also have some entities with them, some characteristics or attributes with them. And generally relationships are three types: one is to many, many to many and many one to many relationships. Different we may use these relationships with various scenarios. So, what are business rules? Business rules are nothing but some conditions, brief explanations, precise and unambiguous description of a policies, procedures, principles with a specific organization environment. Means business rules means these are some rules which are used to implement some system. They are briefly, precisely, and unambiguous means without any confusion, description of a policies, procedures, principles, anything of an organization. A company airplane must be inspected after 100 hours of flight. These are some conditions, examples of these are the some examples of different business rules apply to any organization that stores and uses data to generate information. A description of operations that help to create and enforce actions. So this is the simple definition of a business rules, and must be rendered in writing means all business rules should be maintained and written writing on paper, must be kept up to date, and they should be up to date with time to time. Sometimes are external to the external organization, must be easy to understand and widely disseminated, describe characteristics of the data as viewed by the company. So these are the about business rules. So what are the how to form business rules or how to create business rules? Means by the business rules are generally formed by managers, top level managers, policy makers of the companies or organizations, departmental managers. They can be maintained in written documentations, some procedures, or by standards, some operational manuals, like that, or by conducting various interviews with the end users, like that. So importance of business rules. So promote creation of this we doesn't require. So the evaluation of data models. Why, how the data models are formed, or how the data models are evaluated. So basically data models are five types. Basic types of data models are five types. First one is hierarchical model, second one is network model, third one is relational model, fourth one is entity relationship model, fifth one is object oriented model. Hierarchical model, network model, relational model, entity relationship model, object oriented model. So these are the different explanations or different parameters taken for evaluation of data models. So the first model is hierarchical model. Hierarchical model means, what is hierarchical model? What are its characteristics? So basic concepts form the basis for subsequent database development. Limitations lead to a different way of looking at database design. Basic concept shows up in current data models, best understood by examining manufacturing process. So this is the simple example of a hierarchical structure or hierarchical model. Generally in hierarchical model, all these models are generally basically there are some tools, some graphic representations, some tools like that. So hierarchical model is represented with some in a top to bottom manner. Generally the top node or a top rectangle is called as a root, and the last the bottom parts are called as something segments or leaves. It is also called as a tree level structure. So in hierarchical structure or hierarchical model, the data or information is generally represented with a diagram called a tree model, basing on something like this. So generally these hierarchical structures or hierarchical models have different levels. means level 1, top level is called as root level, and next one is level 1 segments are level 1, level 2, level 3. It is also called as a parent children or parent child relationship model. It is also called as a parent children or a parent child relationship model. The top the root node is the top first node is called as a root node or root segment. The last nodes are also called as a leaf nodes or children categories. So this is the examples, and here the one rule is every parent node or every parent have more than one children and one or more children, and every children have exactly only one parent only, so that it is in one to many relationship. One to many means one to many, it is in one to many relationship. So hierarchical model or hierarchical structure characteristics. Each parent can have many children. Each child has only one parent. Tree is defined by path that traces parent segments to child segments beginning from the left. Hierarchical path, ordered sequencing of segments tracing hierarchical structure, pre-order traversal hierarchical sequence. So this is the basic syntax or a basic working of a hierarchical structure or hierarchical model. It is also called as a parent children or a tree model. Means it follows exactly 1:m relationship, and every parent have many children and every children have many parents on them. So the hierarchical model advantages over a file system. So what is a file system? In the before evolving these data models, we may use file systems. File systems have traditional file systems, they have many drawbacks and many problems with them. So after that we data models are evolved. And what are the advantages over a file system? So conceptual simplicity, database security, data independence, data integrity, and efficiency. So these are the advantages of data models, hierarchical model or a data model, any data model. So conceptual simplicity means easy to understand the model layout, means we can easily understand the hierarchical model. Database security means the security for the each and every item is very strictly maintained. The security is very strictly maintained. Another feature of hierarchy model is database security. Next is data independence. Independence means the data is independently maintained. It is not dependent on any other part or component. Database integrity. Integrity means always link between parent and child node, means the database is properly maintained. Database integrity means database is properly connected and maintained. That is called as database integrity. And data independence means a chance in a data type will. Next is efficiency, very efficient when it contains a large volume of data in 1:m relationships and whose relationships are fixed over time. Next is disadvantages. So what are the disadvantages of hierarchical or hierarchy model? Hierarchical or hierarchy model. So complex implementation means detailed knowledge of the physical data storage characteristics is required. Difficulty to manage means relocate or relocation of segments requires application changes. Lacks in structural independence, implementation limitations, and lack of standards. So child with multiple parents, this is the example with 1:m relationship. It is a customers have ordered something and parts also. So this is the simple example of hierarchy model. Next one is network model. The second model is network model. What is a network model, and what is the definition of network model? What are its advantages and disadvantages, characteristics, like that. So network model is created to represent complex data relationships more effectively. It has a property or a characteristics of improve database performance, impose the database standards, conference and data systems language, and follows codacil and like that. So crucial database components. So what are the some definitions of some of the definitions of we define some other terms where the network model follows: schema, subschema, and DML. Schema, what is schema? Conceptual organization of entire database as viewed by the database administrator is called as schema. Conceptual organization of entire database as viewed by the database administrator. Subschema means defines database portion, and data manipulation language DML means defines data characteristics and data structure in order to manipulate the data. So these three are required in network model. So data management language components DDL, subschema DDL, and DML. DML means data manipulation language, manipulates database contents. So network model, the structure of a network model. What is the structure of how the network model is working? Reassembles hierarchical model, collection of records in 1:m relationships. A relationship is called a set composed of at least two record types, owner and member. So network model is nothing but it is the reassembly of hierarchical model. Generally in network model we may use a term called records. In hierarchical model, nodes or tree model or parent children or parent child relationships are used, whereas in network model records are used. As basic unit, and it also follows 1:m relationship only. A relationship is called generally a relationship is termed as a set and composed of at least two record types. Every record have two types, owner and member. Owner is called as the parent node in the hierarchical model, and member is called as the child node in the hierarchical model. It also strictly follows 1:m relationship only. So a network model, this is the example of network model. So what is a network model? Sales representation, customer, invoices, product and payments. So sales representation directly it is established with invoice entity with 1:m relationship. Customers have relationship with invoice and payment systems with 1:m only. And product is again creates a 1:m relationship with the invoice line. So this is the basic simple example of a network model. So the network model advantages. What are the advantages? Conceptual simplicity means it is easy to understand. Handles more relationship types. Generally in network model, not only 1:m and more complicated relationships are easily created. Data access flexibility means no need for a pre-order traversal. Promotes database integrity, data independence, conformance to standards. So it follows some international rules and regulations and standards. So what are the disadvantages of network model? System complexity means it is very difficult to maintain. Why? Because the total system is totally complexity. It is lack of structural independence, means non-independent. That is called as lack of structural independence, means generally dependencies, more dependencies. Next is relational model. Third model is, what are the 5 data models? First one is hierarchical model or hierarchy model, using parent child system. And second model is a network model using some nodes and root model. And third one is relational model. Relational model is important. It is also an essay type question. And ER model, entity relationship model, is also an essay type question. So third model is a relational model developed by CARD IBM in 1970, considered ingenious but impractical in 1970. Conceptually simple, computers lacked power to implement the relational model. Today microcomputers can run sophisticated relational databases software. So it is developed by CARD. Next is the relational model basic structure. It is mainly used in relational database management system (Dbms). Performs same basic functions provided by hierarchical and network DBMS systems plus other functions. Dbms handles all the complex physical details. Most important advantage of the Dbms is its ability to let the user or designer operate in a human logical environment. So generally relational model is implemented in RDBMS. Performs same basic functionalities like hierarchical and network model plus other functions. RDBMS handles all the complex physical details. Most important advantage of the RDBMS is its ability to let the user or designer operate in a human logical environment. The relational model basic structure. In relational model, generally we may use one term called table or relation. Generally in relational model we may use a term, frequently used term is called as table or relations. A relation is a matrix consisting of a series of rows and column intersections. So a relation is generally a table, or a relation is represented by using some table with a matrix type, having some rows and columns, and related to each other by sharing a common entity characteristics. So generally a relation is established, or a relation is having more characteristics or properties in it. And relational schema means, what is a relational schema? Visual representation of relational databases, entities, attributes with those entities, and relationships between those entities. So generally we may use some tools like pictures, graphics for a relational model, for visual representation of relational databases. Linking relational tables. So this is the simple example of a relational model. Generally in relational model we may use tables, different tables. Here we may use two tables. The first one is insurance company, table name is agent. Second one is customer. Agent is the first table, and it having some properties or characteristics and data like that. Agent code, agent name, last name, agent first name, initial, agent area code, agent phone, like that. And customer code, customer name, first name, last name, second name, like that. Here agent code is the common name for both. So relational table. What is a relational table? Stores a collection of related entities. stores generally in relational table or a table. Generally it is used to store a collection of related entities to reassemble a file. Relational table is a purely logical structure. How data are physically stored in the database is of no concern to the user or the designer. This property became the source of a real database resolution. So, this is a relational schema like agent and customer. Agent table have different details like agent code, last name, first name, initial area code, phone, address, city, state, jeep, gate head, year, agent YTD pay, FIT like that. And the customers have details like customer code, last name, first name, initial area code, phone, renew date like that. The relational model. So, advantages. What are the advantages of a relational model? Structural independence. Structural independence means changes in the relational data structure do not affect the DBMS data access in any way. Improved conceptual simplicity by concentrating on the logical view. Easier database design, implementation, management and use. Ad hoc query capability SQL, powerful database management system. So, what are the advantages? Structural independence means it is purely independent and it does not depend on any other part of the database structure, database design. And improved conceptual simplicity by concentrating on logical views. Here we use logical view for creating relational models. Easy to design database, implement and management and use. And SQL queries are generally created with ad hoc query capacity. Ad hoc query capability means queries are generally created with SQL. It is a powerful management database management system. Next, disadvantages. So, what are the disadvantages of data models or the relational model? Substantial hardware and system software overhead means more hardware and software requirements are needed. Can facilitate poor design and implement. Many promote islands of information problems. So, design issues are also there. Some design issues and implementation issues are also there in relational model, and more hardware and software interferences. So, fourth model is entity relationship model. The fourth model is called as the entity relationship model or ER model. Widely accepted and adopted graphical tool for data modeling. Introduced by Peter Chen, graphical representation of entities and their relationship in a database structure. So, it is mainly accepted, it is a universally accepted and adopted graphical tool. It is a tool for data modeling techniques. It is used by Chen. Graphical representation, it is a graphical representation of entities and relationships in a database structure. So, the entity relationship model basic structure. So, ERD means entity relationship diagram. Entity relationship diagram, ERD. Generally, entity relationship model uses ERD, entity relationship diagrams, ER diagrams, uses graphical representation to model database components. Entity is mapped to a relational table. Entity instance or occurrence is row in a table. Entity set is a collection of like entities. Connectivity labels types of relationships. Diamond connected to related. So, in entity relationship model, ER diagrams, ERDs are used. It is a graphical tool to represent database model and its components. Generally, each and every entity is mapped to a relational table. Every row in a table is called as an instance of a relation. Diamond symbols means entities are generally represented with some square symbols, whereas diamond symbols are used to create relationship and they are used to relate one or more entities through a relationship. So there are different types of symbols here. So this is the simple example of entity relationship, the basic Ca-Sem-Iii model, ER diagrams. So here we may use 1:1, 1:many relationship, many to many relationship, and many to 1:1 relationship. 1:many relationship, many to many relationship, and 1:1 relationship. Here we are taking two different boxes, square boxes for entities to represent entities, and a diamond symbol for a relationship. Painter is an entity, painting is an entity, employee is an entity, skill is an entity, employee is an entity, store is an entity, and paints, lanes, and managers, all these are relationships. So these are different types of examples for 1:m relationship, many to many, one to many relationship, and many to many relationship, and many to one to one relationship. So these are another slide. It is in another slide explaining more relationships. So what are the advantages of using ER models or entity relationship model? Exceptional conceptual simplicity, visual representation, effective communication tool, integrated with the relational data model. So it is mainly ER entity relationship model is mainly integrated or connected with the relational data model. It is a visual representation tool, more efficient or more effective communication tool than compared with other tools, other models. Simple concept, it is having simple concept. So what are the disadvantages? Limited constant representation, limited relationship representation, no data manipulated language, loss of information content. So the last model is object oriented model. It is a semantic data model developed by Hammer and modeled both data and their relationships in a single structure known as an object. Basis of object oriented data model, OODM. OODM becomes the basis for the object oriented database management system, OOBDMS. So object oriented data model lo manaki object is described by its factual content, like relational model entities, includes information about relationships between facts within object and relationships with other objects, unlike relational models entity. Subsequent OODM development allowed an object to also contain operations. Object becomes basic building block for autonomous structures. Developments that boosted OODM's popularity. Growing costs put a premium on code reusability. So generally this model is not popular, we may ignore it. Here in object oriented data model, there are different terms or terminology is used. Object, attributes. Object means abstraction of a real world entity. Attributes describes the properties of an object. Objects that share similar characteristics are grouped in classes. Classes are organized in a class hierarchy. Classes are organized in a class hierarchy, and inheritance is the ability of an object. So generally in object oriented data model, the database structures are created, or object or the structures objects are we may use different terms or terminology like objects, classes, objects, and methods, like that. So this is a simple example of comparison of object oriented data model and ER model.